We spend our entire lives longing for something invisible. We crave overwhelming success that others will envy, a chance at sudden wealth, or that one monumental stroke of luck that will completely alter the trajectory of our lives. Living in a capitalist society, modern individuals are constantly comparing themselves to others, perhaps continuously conditioned and trained to yearn only for higher places and more glamorous moments. The average office worker boarding a packed subway every morning, with a heavy body, the student fighting off sleep under the cold light of a study room late into the night, and the individual investor monitoring stock graphs and crypto trends. Day and night all carry a grand one big shot in their hearts as they fiercely endure each day. They often believe that if they can just lay their hands on it, the tedious daily routine, a bit of emotional suffering, and the sacrifices of those around them are natural prices to pay. Putting up present time and precious emotions as collateral for the brilliant glory of the future is now taken for granted in our society as a virtue and an essential formula for success. Yet, in this fierce and earnest race, we completely forget to ask ourselves one critical question. As I chase this massive entity, what am I trampling beneath my feet? The more distant and glamorous the destination, the more our gaze naturally shifts toward the empty air far ahead. There is no room to look back at the minor obstacles or the beautiful scenery around us. It feels like a luxury and a waste of time when we move our steps roughly, while looking only at that virtual arrival point shining in the distance. We realize too late that things are being ruthlessly crushed and trampled under our harsh footprints. It might be physical and mental health that can never be recovered once gone, warm time with family who loved us unconditionally, or the trivial, yet gentle daily peace that visits us every single day. We rationalize that we are temporarily sacrificing the small to gain the large. But were those small things truly so worthless that they could be easily compensated for later? The modern society we live in constantly forces and pressures us to find the four-leaf clover. It instills a pervasive fear that one must become a differentiated presence among countless people, and that living an ordinary life equates to falling behind. In competition and failing, mass media and sleekly packaged social media bombard us daily with stimulating stories of people who have seized extraordinary luck, tales of a young adult who became a billionaire and achieved early retirement, the narrative of an individual who became a beloved public star overnight, and images of influencers enjoying leisure in exotic, luxurious destinations that others might never visit in a lifetime, captivate our eyes and ears, shaking our hearts. The more we are continuously exposed to this glamorous and stimulating information, the more our humble and ordinary daily lives are reduced to something infinitely shabby and insignificant. It creates a cruel illusion that everyone in the world except me is enjoying special luck and living a perfect life. Thus, with an increasingly anxious mind, we leap blindly into the rough thicket, eyes ablaze, to find our own four-leaf clover hidden within the clovers we commonly encounter while walking through fields or parks. Are ancient symbols and deep meanings that have been passed down for a very long time. Botanically speaking, the four-leaf clover, which is merely a mutation or a deformity caused by environmental stimuli, carries the language of luck. On the other hand, the three-leaf clover, which is so common all around us that no one easily notices it or attributes value to it, carries the language of happiness. This trivial yet bizarre contrast perfectly pierces through the essential paradox of life that humanity has experienced throughout long ages of civilization. The joy of accidentally discovering a single four-leaf clover among a vast colony of green. Three-leaf clovers is certainly intense and thrilling for the sole reason that it has one extra leaf. It is granted special value and enjoys the honor of being deeply and preciously preserved between the pages of a thick book. This is because the absolute value of scarcity strongly stimulates human possessiveness, inducing a sweet illusion that I have become a special being, distinct from the ordinary people around me. However, the true tragedy of life occurs precisely in the process of searching for that four-leaf clover, People ruthlessly tear through the green grass to lay their hands on a single four-leaf clover, a stroke of accidental luck that may visit only a few times in a lifetime. They drop to their knees, pushing aside blades of grass without hesitation, and mercilessly trample the surrounding foliage with their feet. In that harsh search process, thousands or tens of thousands of three-leaf clovers have their stems snapped, get torn apart, and are wretchedly buried under the cold dust. What this landscape suggests to us is incredibly clear and heartbreaking, driven solely by the single-minded determination to catch a massive luck, whose reality is vague, and whose arrival time is unknown. We are trampling with our own feet the countless moments of happiness that densely and richly fill our lives at every second. Blinded by the sweet mirage of luck, it is a paradoxical phenomenon where we fail to recognize and thoroughly destroy the beauty and preciousness of daily life that has already existed in overflowing abundance by our side. This contradictory behavior is not a fable, confined merely to searching for clovers in a green field. In our actual daily lives and throughout our entire journey through life, the exact same form of silent tragedy is repeated every single day. A provider who gives up warm dinners with his family for over a decade and pours all his energy into work and networking weekends without fail, just to achieve a high social status, or become an executive at a major corporation, closely resembles the person searching for a four-leaf clover. He promises himself and rationalizes that he will finally be happy with his family once he grasps that brilliant four-leaf clover of success in the distant future. However, while he runs like mad toward that success, the children grow up all too quickly past the age where they need their parents' warm embrace and leave home, and the emotional bond with his spouse cools down and snaps when he finally holds the four-leaf clover of success in his hands and looks around in his later years. The three-leaf clovers the smiles of his family and their affectionate conversations beneath his feet have all been trampled, disappearing without a trace. Can that single four-leaf clover held in his old age truly compensate for the countless three-leaf clovers completely lost along the way? To intelligently understand the essential difference between luck and happiness, it is necessary to clearly examine the structural characteristics and mechanisms of these two concepts. First, luck is thoroughly an accidental event, existing outside my sphere of control. Winning the lottery, the sudden surge of a stock, the appearance of an unexpected benefactor met by chance, an abrupt boom in the market, or an innately inherited appearance or talent, are absolutely not areas that a human being can plan and create through pure will or effort alone. No matter how earnestly one prays every dawn and pours out blood and sweat, luck can coldly bypass them. Conversely, it is the ruthless nature of luck that it can pour down, like lightning upon someone who has lived lazily without any preparation. In other words, luck is strictly a probability game, based on coincidence and centering. One's life around this luck is no different from entrusting one's only life entirely to the roll of a die on a gambling table. A human being who craves only external conditions beyond control inevitably suffers from chronic anxiety and helplessness, like a passenger waiting indefinitely for a bus that may or may not come. A life that only wishes for luck cannot help but be constantly anxious and thirsty. In contrast, happiness is thoroughly an internal state and emotion, existing within my sphere of control. According to positive psychology and the latest neuroscience research, the true sense of satisfaction and happiness that humans feel stems from the sum of small but frequent positive experiences, rather than a massive achievement that occurs once in a blue moon. Feeling the warm sunlight gently entering through the cracks of the window, when opening tired eyes in the morning, starting a quiet day while fully savoring a fragrant and rich cup of coffee, the small smile that inadvertently forms upon seeing a nameless wildflower shyly blooming on the path to work, the moment of laughing heartily at a trivial joke while talking on the phone with an old friend, and the cozy shower and rest taken after safely. Returning home at the end of a grueling day's work, all of these are the true three-leaf clovers that sustain our lives. These fragments of daily life do not require immense effort, astronomical costs, or the permission of others. They are things that can be discovered and richly enjoyed right now at any time, depending solely on the direction of my own mindset and gaze. This is because happiness is not a distant, lofty destination to be conquered, but an area of attitude discovered within the process of life itself, where I am setting my feet at this very moment. Regrettably, however, many modern individuals vastly misunderstand the essence of happiness. There is a dominant tendency to view happiness, just like luck, as a final achievement that can only be reached when certain, special and grand conditions are perfectly met. It is a conditional theory of happiness attached to premises, such as once I perfectly succeed in this large-scale project, only then will I be happy. Once I save hundreds of millions of won and buy a brand-name apartment, from then on I will live peacefully and happily. Or once my child enters a prestigious university without making others envious, our family will finally be happy. This distorted thinking constantly pushes the timing of happiness into the vague territory of the distant future. Yet, as the history of humanity and psychology prove, the human brain is an animal of immense hedonic adaptation. Even if one finally achieves a long-sought goal and tastes a temporary sense of accomplishment and luck, that thrilling joy does not last long. Before a few weeks or months pass, the brain quickly adapts to the new, higher baseline and returns to a state of chronic deficiency, hunting once again for a larger and more stimulating four-leaf clover. Ultimately, a person who postpones present, humble happiness for the sake of future achievement is destined to share the fate of a tragic runner who runs endlessly in pursuit of a rainbow that can never be caught. Why then do we so easily fall into the glamorous temptation of luck and live our lives constantly underestimating the precious happiness right in front of our eyes? At the center of this problem lies the mechanism of deficiency, terrifyingly anchored by modern consumer capitalism and real-time social media. The majority of the media systems we encounter today systematically send us anxious signals, saying, "You are seriously lacking something right now." It subtly implants the continuous perception that the smartphone currently in your hand is already an old model. The car you are driving is too small and shabby compared to others, and the house you live in with your family has low asset value. It is a structure that induces endless consumption and inflates desire by constantly making us compare ourselves with others and causing us to self-deprecate the true value of what we already possess. Modern individuals who have grown up breathlessly in such a suffocating environment find themselves in a state of chronic emotional deficiency, always struggling no matter how much they have. The numerous three-leaf clovers they already enjoy are regarded as natural background scenery, failing to evoke any inspiration, and only the single four-leaf clover they lack feels like the sole relief, picture that will rescue their lives from pain. This wretched sense of deficiency makes human vision extremely narrow and dark. In psychology, this is known as tunnel vision, when the entire mind becomes obsessed with a powerful goal or an extreme deficiency. It becomes a psychological blindness, where one completely fails to perceive the rich information or positive stimuli existing around that tunnel's light. To a person staring intently at a patch of grass with lowered waist under the eye, single-minded resolve that they must find a four-leaf clover. Only the binary factor of whether a fourth leaf is attached or not matters. At that very moment, the cool autumn breeze gently brushing their cheek, the clear chirping of birds, echoing pleasantly, the fragrant scent of grass, wafting past the tip of the nose, and the humble beauty of the numerous three-leaf clovers, blooming freshly beneath their feet, are reduced to a meaningless, worthless background existing outside the tunnel. Our actual lives flow in a shockingly identical manner. The moment we immerse our souls into a single grand four-leaf clover, be it money, honor, power, or promotion, the numerous diverse elements that beautifully compose life completely vanish from sight. It leads to a state of emotional illiteracy, where one completely fails to feel with their cells, the rough back of an aging parent's hand who worries for them, the clear laughter of a child smiling innocently at them, or the wonder of nature, offered for free by the changing seasons. A more serious problem is that the act of blindly chasing luck often manifests in society as an egoistic behavior that ruthlessly tramples the precious happiness of others for the sole purpose of grasping the four-leaf clover of my own success and profit actions, such as framing a colleague who sweated alongside me to bring them down, deceiving a long-time client to take unfair gains, or inflicting deep wounds on the hearts of people who believed in me, are carried out without hesitation under the name of ability. People easily justify their cowardly selfishness with the words, "It was an inevitable choice to survive in this cold, competitive society." But how enduring and honorable can the luck grasped by climbing up and brutally trampling someone else's? Three-leaf clover truly be a tower of success. Built precariously on the tears and sacrifices of others might look glamorous on the outside, but it is like a sandcastle that is bound to collapse easily at the slightest wind of crisis. Furthermore, when one thoroughly devastates the surroundings and climbs to the peak alone, what they face is highly likely not a brilliant glory, but only a devastating loneliness and a bone-deep emptiness. This is because no loved one remains around to sincerely congratulate them, and no warmth is left to share that joy. Now we must resolutely stop this destructive race whose brakes are broken. Before it is too late, and before our lives are completely devastated, we must withdraw our gaze that was directed only toward the distant air and the lives of others, and calmly and warmly look down at the ground beneath our feet, where we stand right now. Even if we ultimately fail to find a four-leaf clover, our only life has by no means failed, and there is absolutely no reason for us to live, trapped in daily misery and depression. Just because we do not enjoy the special luck that others envy, this is because beneath our feet, the great happiness named the three-leaf clover is already blooming in numbers too vast to count. Everywhere we look, the true richness and quality of life are perfectly determined by the frequency of happiness that I discover and marvel at within my own mundane daily routine, not by the size of an accidental stroke of luck that hits like the lottery once in a while. Rather than 100 grand and glamorous slogans of success, a single word of warm encouragement, delivered while affectionately meeting the eyes of a precious person by my side, makes our lives truly dignified and valuable. The great first step to restoring the humble happiness of daily life begins with the rediscovery of gratitude. Happiness starts to sprout from an attitude of awe that never takes for granted the things that are too common around us. A healthy body capable of rising gently by its own strength, in the morning like a miracle. A workplace and a small role that allow me to live today productively. A warm shelter that protects me comfortably from the hardships and storms of a harsh world. And above all, the presence of precious family and friends who silently believe in and support me no matter what situation I face. All of these are actually massive three-leaf clovers given to us by the universe, which we enjoy free of charge without any payment. If we consciously list the names of the three-leaf clovers we already possess before falling asleep every night, or upon opening our eyes in the morning, we will instantly realize that we are the wealthiest people in the world, already owning far more than we thought. It is absolutely necessary to deliberately shift the brain's negative circuitry, which was focused on what we lack, to a positive circuitry of fulfillment and gratitude for what has already been given to us. This does not mean, however, that we should cynically discard our healthy efforts toward the future or our burning passion for achievement and settle into complacency. The act of searching for a four-leaf clover is neither an original sin nor something inherently bad. Venturing into new challenges, dreaming of a better tomorrow, and moving fiercely toward a goal are important, driving forces of life that cultivate inner growth and maturity. Yet, the most crucial core we must not forget is balance and attitude. It means that while we stride powerfully forward to find tomorrow's four-leaf clover, we need a gentle and delicate attentiveness, not to ruthlessly trample the three-leaf clovers blooming beneath our feet today. To those who let go of urgency, Observe the surrounding landscape warmly and walk slowly. A four-leaf clover quietly reveals itself before their eyes, like an unexpected gift at a place where their steps happen to halt, even without them, violently ransacking the grass and kicking up dust, even if we fail to find a single one of those glamorous four-leaf clovers throughout our entire lives. Our field of life will already be beautiful enough and more than warm enough through the fresh vitality and soft touch of the numerous three-leaf clovers that gently embraced our hands and feet. Looking back on the long journey past, I quietly extend a deep question from the heart to you, a precious soul who is earnestly living out a breathless and fierce day in your respective place. What kind of scenery does the field of life that you are currently walking look like? Driven by anxiety and urgency to somehow find that four-leaf clover, the elusive luck of someone else, are you blindly trampling and wounding the most precious values and people around you? Or are you locking yourself up in an invisible prison of misery and deficiency, constantly comparing and self-deprecating your humble, ordinary three-leaf clover against someone else's brilliantly packaged four-leaf clover? Today at least, pause that suffocating race and your steps for just a moment. Stand still. Inhale the fresh air deeply and take a deep breath. Then lower your head and look closely and with affection at the ground beneath your feet, which was hard to see, hidden beneath the dust of harsh competition. There, the green happinesses that have been eagerly waiting for your warm touch and tender gaze for a long time will still be blooming beautifully in their fresh, intact forms, rather than gambling your entire life's happiness on an unlikely, accidental stroke of luck that may visit by chance, holding and embracing the small happinesses of daily life that you can immediately grasp with your own will and vision that is the only secret to living. The miraculous life granted to us just once in the most wise, dignified and rich way. Remember deep in your heart that we were not miserable because we failed to catch luck, but our hearts were always empty because we failed to recognize the happiness already abundant. I sincerely hope that today becomes a wondrous day where, instead of the dim and distant luck before your eyes, you first deeply love and embrace the numerous three-leaf clovers of happiness silently given within your hands and beneath your feet.